I'd like to call the East Brunswick Township Council Action Agenda meeting to order for March 14th, 2022. Would everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for a moment of silence for those suffering in the Ukraine. Pledge of Allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please take your seats. We do that so much better when we're in person. I don't know why we can't do it like that in Zoom, but Ms. Perry, would you please call the roll?
Sure. Councilman Bahal?
Here.
Councilman McAvoy?
Here.
Councilwoman Sullivan?
Here.
Councilwoman Zimbicki?
Here.
Council President Wendell?
Here.
Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided as required under Chapter 231, Public Laws, 1975, specifying time, date, location, and to the extent known the agenda, by posting a copy on the bulletin board located in the main lobby of the municipal building, providing a copy to the Home News Tribune and Sentinel newspapers, posting a copy on the township's website, and by filing a copy in the office of the township clerk, which will be entered in the minutes.
Thank you so much. Tonight, first on our agenda is a presentation, Resolution 17340, or Item 17340, resolution honoring former Councilman Michael Spadafino, and Councilwoman Sullivan will be presenting that. Oh, we have to vote on it?
Well, we can do it after.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know it.
Resolution honoring Michael Spadafino. Whereas Michael Spadafino served as a councilman for the Township of East Brunswick from January 1st, 2014 through January 10th, 2022, and served as a council president in 2018. Whereas Michael Spadafino, during his service to the community, served on the Recreation Parks and Advisory Board, the Municipal Emergency Management, EB Museum Corporation, Cable Television and Telecommunications Advisory Committee, Water Policy Advisory Committee, Planning Board, and the Redevelopment Agency. Wow. And whereas Michael Spadafino worked diligently with the Mayor David Stahl, Mayor Kevin McAvoy, and Mayor Brad Cohen for the betterment of the community. Now therefore be it resolved that the Mayor and Township Council of the Township of East Brunswick, on behalf of a grateful community, express their gratitude to Michael Spadafino for his service to the residents. Be further resolved that the Township Clerk is hereby directed to include this resolution and spread its contents upon the minutes of the Township of East Brunswick Council meeting for the purposes of posterity on the 14th day of March 2022, so that the public service of Michael Spadafino may be forever recorded in the history of the Township of East Brunswick.
Can I get a motion to approve this resolution?
So moved.
Second. Second? Second.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Now, Mr. Councilman,
Okay.
before you get up, before you speak, I'd like to invite Senator Dygnan and our own Assemblyman and previous President of the Council, Assemblyman Sterling Stanley, to get up because they have a presentation for you as well.
Is that some big words in this Australian? Who's glasses? I borrowed his glasses. Mike, thank you. Before I read the resolution, I just want to say a few words about Michael. Michael, I just want to say I'm honored to be called your friend. I'm honored to have served with you on this council, and I thank you for your friendship that you've given to me and the advice you've given to me over the years. The way Michael conducts himself is how we all should strive to conduct ourselves as political leaders in our respective fields. Michael, you taught me how to be a gentleman in this world of politics by your example, by how you've done things, and you showed me. And I really appreciate the time we had together, running 2 campaigns together in 16 and 20, along with our mayor, Brad Cohen. And it was an honor and a pleasure to be your friend and be your running mate as well.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So, before I read this, I borrowed these glasses from, which I think I lost.
Oh, we lost them.
No, I got them in here somewhere. I think I got them in here. All right. This is a joint legislative resolution by Senator Deignan, Assemblyman Karabinchak, and myself, Assemblyman Stanley. Whereas the Senate and the General Assembly of the State of New Jersey are pleased to acknowledge the Honorable Michael Spadafino, a highly esteemed resident of the Garden State, upon the conclusion of his distinguished term on the East Brunswick Township Council, that he has exemplified the true meaning of selfless public service. And whereas Michael Spadafino's steadfast commitment to the people of East Brunswick began with his election to the Township Council in 2014, and he has demonstrated exemplary leadership as its president and as an invaluable member of various boards and committees, including the Water Policy Advisory Committee, the Planning Board, the Recreation Parks Advisory Board, and Emergency Management. And whereas an illustrious graduate of East Brunswick High School and Palmer College of Chiropractic, Michael Spadafino touched the lives of countless patients in his care as the proprietor of Spadafino Chiropractic and Wellness Center, which he opened in 1987. Following his superb 10-year tenure as a science teacher and athletic coach at his East Brunswick alma mater. And whereas he has been upheld in his life's endeavors by his wife, Kathy, and he takes great pride in his children, Louisa, Rosanna, and Michael Vito. And whereas his extensive record of inspired and effective civic participation has earned from Michael Spadafino the deepest respect and admiration of the citizens of his community. And whereas it is altogether fitting and right for the members of his legislature to pause in the deliberations to recognize Michael Spadafino and to commend him as a man of remarkable character and exceptional determination. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Senate and General Assembly of the State of New Jersey that this legislature hereby salutes Michael Spadafino, pays tribute to his meritorious history of service, leadership, and commitment, and extends sincere best wishes for continued success all the days of his life. And be it further resolved that a duly authenticated copy of this resolution, signed by the Senate President and the Assembly Speaker and attested by the Senate Secretary and the Assembly Clerk, be transmitted to the Honorable Michael Spadafino.
I'll just mirror what Sterling said, but one line stood out with me while he was reading it. Remarkable character and exceptional determination. That embodies what this gentleman is. I always say the nicest people I've met have been through politics, and this guy is top of the list. He would call me about all kinds of issues, medical issues dealing with supply and demand in the state, and he always gave an honest, forthright answer and something to rely on. He is an exceptional person, and even the fact that they're moving to the shore to be closer to their grandkids, what does that tell you? This is a couple that has their priorities in order and know what's right. And it's been an honor to know you, and God bless you.
Thank you.
Well, as you know, I'm usually pretty short-winded. I'm not long-winded, so this will only take a minute. First of all, I want to thank you, this council, for the honor and as well as recognition from the state. I'm very humbled by that. Second, I would like to just say that I want to congratulate Councilperson Dana Zimbicki as being the person that was chosen to take my place, someone that I've always respected and always felt that I admired her accomplishments and her efforts on behalf of the people of East Brunswick for a long time also. Long histories, right? We feel, my wife and I, that we want to thank a lot of people, but I'm not going to take a whole bunch of time, but I do want to thank Dave Lonsky and the Democratic organization in the state, in East Brunswick, for their decision to let me participate as a representative for the town. Also, I would like to thank Nancy Pinkin, Sterling Stanley, Pat Dyman, and John Karabinchek, as well as Kevin McCabe from the county, for their reinforcing my efforts in this town and in the county level also. Also, I want to thank my wife Kathy, because always, as long as far back as our being teachers in East Brunswick, where we met, fell in love, got married, and decided this is where we wanted to spend our lives in this town, she always understood my feelings for this town and was always an active participant in her love for the town as well. And for that, I thank you, dear. Also, finally, I want to thank, of course, the residents of East Brunswick who felt that they had enough confidence to elect me 3 times. So I'm very proud that they felt and they saw that I had value and that I was a representative that represented their interests only, no matter what side of the aisle you stand. One thing that I know for sure that is unchanging is that things will change. And one of the things that I also always think about, like a lot of the people in this chamber can, is think about my childhood here in East Brunswick as a 16-year-old, and think about how I would like East Brunswick to stay like that forever. But everybody knows that can't happen. But what I do want to say is, through the efforts of the people in this chamber, especially the ones that are here now, the mayor, the council, I believe that we are moving East Brunswick in a very positive direction. And I think that we have foresight to look and see what is in the best interest of our community and the people in this town by our mayor and council. And so I say, stay the course. You know what you need to do, and I know that you will always act in the best interest of the people in this town. So, lastly, I just want to say that I am leaving East Brunswick, but East Brunswick is not leaving me. It is who I am. So I thank you. I know you have business to conduct, so thank you very much.
Don't sit down yet, Mike. Mike, Councilman, don't sit down yet. I got a couple words. You know, I've said this a lot over the years. I mean, we've worked together for darn near, I don't know how many years, but I'm proud to be sitting here and have been one of the councilmen that appointed you and chose you to fill an unexpired seat. It was one of the best decisions in my life on this council to have chosen you to sit and work beside me. You know, you're a guy, and I've said this numerous times, you were my teacher in high school. You were my football coach in high school. And you're a guy who helped mold me to the person that I am today. And I truly appreciate the fact that you did that. You know, I had broken my collarbone my sophomore year, and I stood alongside you,
Yes, you did.
running around with your microphone cables and all, or your headset, and it was something to be standing next to you and to have you have coached me, taught me, and even though I sat here for a couple of years, you know, longer than you, you taught me more sitting up here, and we had a lot of adult conversations over those years discussing the issues and everything else, and I appreciate all of that time and all of that advice, those conversations that went back and forth, and I think we always came to a great consensus and chose the right thing for the residents of East Brunswick. So thank you from my heart for all that you have done for me since I was a kid.
Thank you, my friend.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Proud to call you my friend now, and not my teacher. All right. Congratulations. We have no public hearings tonight. We're going to move right on to our report section. Mr. Mayor?
Thank you, Council President. Just a couple of things. First, I wanted to announce that we did actually just receive news from D.C. that the township was the recipient of a $1.6 million grant to work on Dunham's Corner Road in the area that we border with South Brunswick. This is a major infrastructure improvement that we needed to do for the town. We've put this off for many years because, in all honesty, it's an extraordinarily difficult part of Dunham's Corner Road to repave. It's different than most other roads. It's a completely concrete structure. So it goes deeper. In order to repair it the right way, it's going to be significantly more difficult. There's drainage issues that are along the side of the road that would have to be done at the same time. And because of the magnitude of that project, it's just been one of those things that each town is trying to do everything possible to not do. But we did apply. Congresswoman Bonnie Watson-Coleman put that in the infrastructure bill for many of the improvements that she wanted to bring back to the district, and that was something that we just found out about. So it adds to the multiple number of grants that we spoke about previously that the township is the beneficiary of. I hate when you end in a preposition.
I think that puts us
But,
over $20 million.
we are, right, before that, we were over 20. Now we're around $22 million in grants over the last 5 to 6 years. And again, that's just money that goes to projects that would and have to be done on township roads and would otherwise have been paid for through property taxes. So we are really happy to receive that, and can't wait to get that work done, which will be done in conjunction with the federal grant that we already got several years ago to do the path between the Crystal Springs and the Community Arts Center. That also is a federal grant, and frankly, one of the things that was holding that up was the drainage issues. So I think that these two packages to work in conjunction to get both projects done a little faster. So that I'm real happy about. I wanted residents to know that. The second thing I wanted, many people may have read that the state of emergency was lifted by the governor, and as a result, one of the moratorium that was lifted on paying your water bill is now gone, which means that the township issued water bills for people who have put that off for the last 2 years while it was allowed under the state of emergency. That meant that within the last week, about 2,800 bills went out to folks. And if there are people who have difficulty with that bill, they are welcome to call our Revenue Department at 732-390-6835. We will work with people who still have difficulty making those payments, but the bills did go out. And then finally, there's a job fair on Saturday the 19th that the Parks and Recreation Department is going to be putting on at the Community Arts Center from 11 o'clock to 2. As many of you know, in most industries following the pandemic, there's just been a labor shortage. And we have a lot of camps. We have Crystal Springs that we operate over the summer, and those are areas that we are targeting for some youth employment, because those are unfortunately at this point still understaffed, and we would like to be able to provide the same level of programming that we've done in the past, and we really don't want to have to restrict people in or hours at Crystal Springs, which we did the last 2 years more from the pandemic, and now that that's pretty much behind us, we don't want to have to restrict it because we can't find help. So anybody who is or knows anybody that would want or needs to look for work, job fair Saturday the 19th from 11 to 2 at the Community Arts Center.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Mayor.
you.
Mr. Administrator?
No report.
Okay. Director Law?
Just briefly, it was something that the clerk brought to my attention, that the ability of restaurants in town to still have outdoor dining and serve alcohol with meals has been extended by the legislature and the governor to November of this year.
Can we make that permanent in our community?
You can adopt an ordinance to do that. We would have to get approval from the ABC, most likely.
Let's look into the process with that.
Yeah, it sounds like
I think a lot of these, businesses have thrived and survived with this, and it's become now the new normal. and I think it makes a lot of people more comfortable, so.
They would have to license the
Right,
outside
license the
property.
outside property.
With
They
the
have to-
They'd
they'd
amend
all-
their liquor
With the
license.
ABC.
They'd all have to amend their liquor licenses to include the outside.
So even a place like
decks or
the
something.
Grove,
The Grove,
would
they'd
be-
have to extend their premises by the
They-
decks
they
or
Their
built-
whatever.
license has been drafted that way.
they built a
That's a
permanent
permanent
structure. They
structure.
didn't-
Right.
But for other folks, you work with the ABC to have
Right.
them extend it's actually just drawing another
Right.
map and applying for an extension.
Thank you. Clerk?
No report.
I just want to say, Nanette is soon retiring,
Yes, I am.
and so we won't be seeing her shining face after the next meeting.
Oh, I didn't use enough makeup.
But,
My last meeting will be next time.
yeah, you're leaving very, very big shoes to fill. You will be sorely missed at that time. But
Thank you.
we're going to move on to our council committee and board reports. I'm going to start off with redevelopment. As we spoke about last time, the mayor mentioned about the lawsuit on the Route 18 properties being moved in our favor. I want to let you know that from a redevelopment standpoint, the developer for the Route 18 properties has under contract or letters of agreement with the two largest property owners on the first phase. So the old 18 Central Plaza and the old Babies R Us, or as more commonly known recently, Office Depot, will be under contract within the next 10 days. And since they have an LOI, signed, and you're going to start seeing movement there, and you're going to start seeing that project come before the planning board within the next 6 to 8 weeks. So it's going to be an exciting summer to finally see this thing post-COVID moving forward, which is really what slowed it down. So that's all I have from redevelopment. One other thing, if anybody drives by the old Wonder Bread factory, you can see that those projects are now going vertical. They're coming out of the ground. You can see rebar and everything else sticking up for columns. So that project is actually moving forward in earnest. So we're excited about that one as well. Anyone else from council? Councilwoman?
Okay. There's 3 big events going on in the next few weeks. The first one is the East Brunswick Regional, well, actually, it is the first one. The East Brunswick Regional Chamber of Commerce is having Mayor Cohn address the township business. Anybody from the public can go. I believe it's $65 a person. It's at the Chateau Grand Hotel. The next one is on April 5th, on a Tuesday. The annual Partner Excellent Education Foundation is having their dinner, and good people are being honored. And the last one is April 10th, as Councilman McAvoy said last week, is the annual Daisy Breakfast. And if you haven't been to that, it's a wonderful event.
That's it?
Councilman
Bahal?
I'm just going to add one more event, kite flying.
Oh, the kite flying.
On April 9th, Community Arts Center between 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. First 100 kids will get free kites, so please get there early.
How old do you have to be considered a child?
I guess you can try that when you get there.
There you go.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Wait, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, Mr. Mack, I'm sorry.
Oh, thank you, Council President. Cable Television and Communication Advisory Committee met on March 8th. We had a very good roundtable discussion in the post-COVID environment that we're in. And we talked about what to expect as the summer months approach with regard to cable vision. The work-at-home numbers have put a tremendous impact on Comcast usage, especially with regard to the cable lines running from the house to the telephone poles in front of your home. The complaint list, which was surprisingly very low, we usually have numbers in and around 15 to 20 with regard to cable complaints. There were only 3 complaints on more or less the traditional line, nothing that, I didn't mean to play on words there on the line either. We talked about which way consumers are going to be going with regard to apps versus the traditional cable line. And for argument's sake, Apple TV, they will be broadcasting approximately 20 Yankee games, and you're going to need to have the Apple TV app in order to watch these games. They will not be broadcast on the Yes Network, which they traditionally had done in the past. You could watch it if you had the app, the Apple app, or watch it on TV. This year it's changing. And as a result of that, the conversation was such that it's sort of all changing right in front of us. For argument's sake, are you going to continue with traditional cable lines, or are you going to be all apps? Some people have the Apple TV, they have Hulu, they have Netflix, they have Paramount, and again, which way are the consumers going to be going in East Brunswick? And finally, on May 24th and 25th, there's a trade show for our EBTV staff. It's not that the trade show is about them. It's one in which they are going to the trade show. They're going to be recognized for the work they've done and hopefully bring back some new and exciting methods of broadcasting for our community. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilman.
Where is the trade show, do you know?
Let's see if I wrote it in my notes.
Sorry if you didn't, I apologize.
I could find out if you...
It's usually in Somerset on Easton Avenue. Is that correct, Anthony?
It's still to be determined, either there or the Hyatt in New Brunswick.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's like the Wizard of Oz, the guy behind the screen.
Ask an answer, you shall receive.
All right.
Ask a question.
With that being said, and no other council committee board reports, I'd like to move on to our public portion. Please limit your comments to three minutes. State your name and address for the record, and please be aware this is not a question and answer period, so, you know, let's conduct ourselves that way. So, first up, Councilman Spadafino.
Michael Spadafino, 59th Avenue, Seaside Park, New Jersey.
That was hard to say.
That's hard to say. I do have to start with a question, though. Mayor Cohen, from where to where of Dunham's Corner Road is this going to affect?
It's pretty much from the entrance to Heavenly Farms all the way to Cranberry Road.
I suggest Heavenly Farms to
The cement
Cranberry Road,
portion.
The cement.
Not to Crystal Springs, not going back that far.
I don't think that has, is that also
That's
part of
concrete
the
as well.
Concrete?
Because that's all
By the ball
concrete.
fields.
Yeah.
Probably by the ball fields.
From the bridge forward.
Well, it's probably a moot question, but, you know, if they are going to go that far, you know, to ask if there's going to be, if there could be consideration for the Salamander crossing and how they can maybe adapt the road in some way to make it so that we don't have to necessarily shut down the part of the road.
The salamanders do not cross there?
They don't cross.
You don't cross there.
I thought there was a crossing there.
No, they cross on Beacon Road
Beacon.
only.
A little over.
Yeah, on the other side of the turnpike.
Never mind.
Good.
Anyone else from the public wishing to speak? Yes, sir.
Jan Bregman, 4th Roy Court, East Brunswick. So first of all, thank you, Mayor, for helping the organization help to Ukraine meeting. That was pretty good, and we should continue to do so, and everyone who participated, so you too. Second, for the Chief of Department of Police meeting was good. Thank you for organizing that. Obviously, it was said there that we do have increase in crime, so I think we don't want to have discussions that there is no increase, there is an increase, and I'm just point that we need to do everything possible so we don't have this increase in, whatever we need to do for the budget of police, we need to do this so we don't have crime situation in this branch. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jan.
Anyone else from the public? Yes, Troy?
Glen Court. First, real quick, thank you.
What's the name?
Troy, sorry. Troy Bailey, 16 Glen Court. First, I just want to thank Councilman Spadafino for your countless service throughout the years in East Brunswick. You're a shining example of what it means to be a resident and living here and giving back to everything you have. And I hope you find happiness, as much happiness as you can in retirement as you provide it to residents of this township. So again, thank you for your time. Also, missing that, thank you again for your time.
No
Next
problem.
council meeting is your last. I just want to thank you again for your countless service to this township as well. Inverse of last week, I was hoping to speak on ice rinks tonight, but I feel like I must speak on redevelopment with the resolutions being considered. First, I want to thank the redevelopment agency for preparing a map of the study area and the clerk and the town council for including the map in the resolutions tonight. It's not technically required, but it is extremely helpful for residents to understand the study area. And trying to learn a little bit more about the study areas tonight, I was reading over the redevelopment agency meetings. I couldn't really find any further information about the intended study areas. From my understanding, 12 Harts Lane was designated a redevelopment area in 2019, with the redevelopment plan being adopted in 2021. It was initially removed from the redevelopment study area back in 2015, along with lots in resolution 1734-8. Lot 3.02 was previously included in Area 8 from 2015, going from Dix to Ferris Street. The lots in resolution 1734-9 are currently zoned as industrial/manufacturing due to the train tracks that used to run behind the lots, with R4 residential in between the area and Route 18 on the map. My view is that the township should pause designating new areas until we complete a new master plan. The master plan was last created in 1990, which is actually 3 years older than me. Due to the age of our master plan, the redevelopment agency is trying to tackle 2 long-term combined zoning and infrastructure problems in our township: large-scale commercial changes and major circulation issues centered around Edgeboro Road, and the overall shifting from manufacturing to warehouses and the closure of the rail line on Harts Lane. With proper planning and zoning, we could shift these areas into mixed-use residential developments that could continue the walkable downtown feel that the redevelopment agency initially created for the initial redevelopment zones.
30 seconds.
While I believe the redevelopment agency could achieve these goals, I believe it should be driven by our master plan. If the township wishes to continue on our current path, I implore the town council and redevelopment agency to take a larger holistic approach to redevelopment areas like we did back in 2015, with one large study area being sliced into separate redevelopment times. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks, Troy.
Yes, sir.
Good evening. Alex Spielman, 6 Douglas Road. This is less of a this is not a question, more as a comment and an observation as we go forward during this post-COVID era. I first wanted to congratulations on Councilman Spadafino for his retirement, and also Clerk Perry for her retirement as well. I wish you both the best for the rest of your lives and all your endeavors that you do. And you have done a great service to this town. But as Councilman Spadafino was saying, things change, and we are right now in that humongous period of change. We are seeing businesses reopening to how they were, families are reuniting once again, everybody is kind of returning back to a previous ebb and flow. And what I've noticed is that, you know, it's kind of like when you finally get your sea legs on that, and how when you get those, you're a little shaky at first. So that's what we're going to probably see, is that shakiness in the beginning, and that when we finally figure out how we're going to do everything with this new set of things, that I believe that we will be a fantastic town, and I think even better than we were prior to everything. So let's hope for a brand new, fantastic future. I see a bright horizon ahead of us. I mean, I just saw a beautiful sunset not that long ago, so you know what? Maybe that's an omen for days to come, and you know what? As Walt Disney used to say, you keep moving forward. You know, nothing's going to slow us down, nothing's going to stop us, and we have to hold our head up high and just forge on. So, thank you.
Thank you. Well stated. Anyone else from the public wishing to speak? Come on.
How are you?
Very good.
Dave Herrera, 32 Cosgrove Court. I'm not going to take up too much of my time because I know Nanette is on that, but congratulations on your retirement, Kathy. I love you. Nanette, I was a little surprised, as many people were, that there was no hockey rink on the agenda. And like, I'm one of those people, you know, maybe it's the addict in recovery, but once I get onto something, like, I'm just invested in it. So I did a lot of phone calls over the last week, and to my surprise, I wasn't the only confused person up here last council meeting. It seems like Sharon and Kevin had a couple questions, so I figured, you know what, I would do a little homework, so the next time that this does come on the agenda, maybe everybody could be on the same page, right? So I called 6 of the top hockey rinks all around New Jersey within a 20-mile radius of us, from Somerset to Flemington, Prostgate, Hackensack, you name it. I talked to all the general managers, and I even had some time to call architects. You could say that I had a busy week. Not only did every single architect I spoke to told me that this $575,000 bid was astronomical and outrageous, one guy even said somebody's got somebody's hand in their pocket. Not going to point that finger, but that's what everybody said. That was the consensus. Now, I know somebody asked me what the price tag would be, and we were told that we wouldn't know until the bid was completed, but every single rink that I spoke to told me that you're looking at no less than $8 to $10 million just to start for building one rink, one sheet of ice. Right now, I called all these rinks, and like I agreed with Joe last time, they are profitable, but the only way to make an ice rink profitable would be to have multiple rinks. Now, this design, this architectural plan that you have is for one single rink. So, well, with an option to build a second one, let me, hold on, don't hit the gavel on me. But unless you're doing something that's going to incorporate something that's year-round moneymaker, it's really not that great of a plan. So what I was thinking of is I have a couple ideas that we could run by, but number one is in that architectural drawing, again, there wasn't much information, but a lot of these rinks now are doing concrete foundations. So in the summertime, because let's face it, hockey rinks look really cool between September until March, and then it gets warm, and who's ice skating in August? I can guarantee you none of you up here have done that. But roller rinking is really cool. A lot of people do things like that. Also, kind of took what Sharon said last week and started researching the way Middletown did theirs, and it's really nice. It's like a community center. They have a lot of different events going on. But, I did some research, right? Brand new Zamboni, $90,000, right? To build a scratch rink from the ground up, $8 to $12 million. That's, and if you decide to do a double rink, that'll be another $5 million. The cost to operate said rink throughout the year would be $1 to $3 million. I could go on and on and on. But let's just say, I hope that when this does come back, maybe we have a better idea. Overall, I do think this is an overall gross spending of our money, right? And I remember, when those POM cards went out last year, this was the team of fiscal responsibility. This doesn't sound fiscally responsible to me. Also, lastly, and I'll wrap it up with this, I don't think the location is great, right? I think up by Heavenly Farms area towards Cranberry Road would be a way better place to build it. Out by the community center, you already have the baseball complex. I know. You already have Crystal Springs. I think putting it out there on Tices by Route 18 towards a demographic of people that don't play hockey, I think is just going to be a cluster of garbage. And I think if we put it on Cranberry Road, it'd be a lot better. But since it's not on the agenda, just know that I'll save what's rest on my paper for when you do decide to put it back. I just hope that when you do, it's a little bit more thought out, and everybody up here seems to be on the same page. Thanks.
Anyone else from the public wishing to speak? Yes, sir.
How you doing, Mike?
Jim.
How are you, Greg? Greg Tamori, 5 Branco Place. Like the gentleman just said, have you ever taken a survey on how many people will play ice hockey?
Actually, we have.
You have? What's the number?
This goes back years ago. We did when we started redevelopment, we had open houses and.
How long ago?
4 or 5 years ago.
4 or 5. That's irrelevant now. 4 or 5 years ago.
Takes a
People
long time to get
change.
these things.
The other thing is, you were saying about Wonder Bread and I guess Lowe's Plaza. What's being built there?
At the old Wonder Bread factory?
Yes.
Mixed use, retail and residential, and townhouses.
Residential?
Yes.
And what about the Lowe's Plaza?
Nothing's going on at Lowe's.
The old, what is it? On 18, nothing's going there?
Where the Wiz and the Gap used to be?
Yeah.
That's going to be mixed-use, residential and retail.
Okay. What are you going to do about all the traffic that's there? Because I live down, Mike knows, I live down that area. What are you going to do with all the traffic? Are you going to widen Route 18? And the other question I have, the apartments on Old Bridge Turnpike, are those all filled?
This is not a question.
Yeah, I know. This is really not
Well,
a
I'm
question.
sorry, this is, you know what?
And this
Believe
is
it or not,
actually not new.
this is the first time I've ever been to one of these meetings. And I think I'm going to start coming because I like to find out, because I live down on Branco Place. I don't know where you people live, and I'm sure you don't live, I know Mike doesn't live there anymore, and I know you people don't live there, but I live there. I'm going to have to deal with the traffic. You won't. So that's my only thing. So all these people you want to start bringing in, whether they're low income or whatever, you better decide what you're going to do with 18 Old Bridge Turnpike, Tice's Lane, whether you're going to make that wider, because I tell you what, go down 18 Woodland Avenue, Edgeboro, Edgar Street. You go down there around, let's say, 8 o'clock till 7 o'clock at night, that road is jam-packed. And you want to bring more people in with more cars?
30 seconds.
God bless you. Thank you.
Thanks, Greg.
Anyone else from the public wishing to speak? Yes, sir.
I want to congratulate Mike Spadafino. He was my chiropractor. He used to crack me up a lot. Congratulations, Mike. I just heard that
Sir, could I
Governor
have your
Murphy
name?
allotted
Name and
over-
address for the record? Name and address for the record?
Oh, it's Thomas Ingrasani, 58 Deerfield Road, East Brunswick, New Jersey.
Thank you.
I understand that Governor Murphy granted East Brunswick Township over $25 million for school aid, and up to 22, and he's allotted over $7 million for the 23 period. Would this help bring our taxes down, being it's a grant? And what are they going to do with that money that's issued? Okay.
I'll give you my, this is,
It's
Yeah.
all good questions, but it's for the school board.
that's all for the school board. We don't have any control over
Well,
it.
he granted East Brunswick Township that money.
No,
No,
He granted this.
That's what it says.
the school system.
school
Gave
system.
it to the schools.
All right, oh, okay. The other thing is, the mall, it's not doing good. I think to get back some prosperity in this town, that mall, something has to be done with it. I mean, everybody goes to Freehold. I mean, it's just, it went downhill. You can't even get a place to eat there no more. If something would be done with that, originally we were supposed to put a top section on, I remember, right? That was years ago, but that died. The Golden Triangle is another thing. That was supposed to help reduce our taxes. That started sinking, and I don't think that's filled up yet. That didn't reduce taxes. And the other thing I have just to complain about is gas prices. I mean, we could write to our congressman and everything else, but it does no good. But something has to be done. I mean, I know it eased up a little bit, but it's still a heartache for most people in this town. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
As far as gas prices, we have absolutely no control over gas prices. I think we're all suffering at the pump. Anyone else from the public wishing to speak? Seeing none, I'll close the public portion. We'll move on to our consent agenda. Before we get into consent, Mr. Criscuolo, would you please just give a little background on item B on the agenda for everyone?
Absolutely.
It's a resolution authorizing the purchase of one Arista 750X network switch through the National Cooperative Purchasing Agreement under contract number
B.
2018-011 in the amount of $73,507.93. So just for
Sure.
council.
This is with our ongoing effort to keep our technology where it needs to be in a world where we have to be concerned about cyber criminals, various ransomware that occurs, and protecting the township from any of the bad guys, we call them, from trying to get in to our networks and our systems. So every couple amount of years, we are going to have to replace switches in the town. And we have been, since I've been here, and most of the people on the council know, I've come from a background of data and computers. I'm retired from AT&T. It is very important that we keep this technology up to date to avoid infiltration. And also, our business is simply run on computer networks. The network is the backbone of everything that we do, and we all know if the network fails, then we're out of business, we're out of service, and so on. So this is to replace, this is an 8-switch hub, and we have some capability to add additional ports into that if we were to grow. So over the years, we have put this type of technology throughout the enterprise to ensure that we can communicate between buildings, that our computer network is strong, and our telephone network, which also runs upon this network. So year after year, you've seen things on the council agenda like this to ensure the integrity of the network. And it's of the utmost importance. As a commissioner on the Central Jersey Joint Insurance Fund, we pay premiums for cybersecurity and cyber insurance. And we talk about this on an ongoing basis. And members of the council know too, because you have email addresses that are associated with the township itself. You had to take a class in order to make sure you're aware of the types of things that can cause problems in our networks. And Ms. Perry has to do it every year as long as I do. So we are going to continue to invest in our network infrastructure, in our computer systems, to guarantee the integrity of our data and secure our residents from any problems, and to continue providing services.
Is that strong enough also with the Harts Lane building too and everything, that'll be strong?
We have installed the system at Harts Lane. The two systems will talk to each other. It is a general practice in the cyber world not to discuss where you're deploying the newest technology. It's an ongoing process, because if you discuss that, some of the bad guys can ascertain what is the oldest technology that you have. But over the last 5 years, we've replaced technology to get where we need to be. And with this, we'll be in a strong place technology-wise, but please expect year after year that we will keep investing in this technology.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, with that, I'd like to separate item F from the consent agenda. Is anyone else looking to separate anything else?
The one I was
No? Okay, so can I get a motion for items A through E and G through M?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Thank you, Councilman. Ms. Perry, would you please call the roll?
Sure. Councilman Bahal?
Yes.
Councilman McAvoy?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sullivan?
Yes.
Councilwoman Zimbicki?
Yes.
Council President Wendell?
Yes. All right, now, item F, resolution authorizing contract in accordance with Public Contract Law, NJSA, through cooperative purchasing of the Division of Purchase and Property in the state of New Jersey for 6 fully equipped police vehicles in the amount of $408,750 to Winter Ford, EAI, SHI International Corp., SF Mobile Vision Incorporated, and Graphic Design, and Amazon. Before we have any discussion on this, Joe, I separated this, and we talked earlier, because I'd like you to talk a little bit about our car usage and replacement, and, what our standard practices are.
Sure, I'll zero this one in on our police department vehicle replacement program. When I arose here, some years you would get 4 cars, some years you would get 6 cars, some years you'd get 2 cars. And after numerous meetings with the mayor and I, the fleet manager, Mr. Losak, and so on, we talked about the mileage that was being put on, especially police cars. So we came up, the number of 6 is what made sense to keep our fleet current and not to accumulate as many miles on the cars that you would have if you did not keep investing year after year in purchasing 6 or so vehicles. Do I think 6 is the right number? Yes, I do. There's at times where we will get specialty vehicles for the police department. Council President, if you remember, a couple of weeks ago, we bought an OEM vehicle, and then what we do with some of the older vehicles, we deploy them into other units. Now, you may see in the police parking lot a lot of cars, but they're used for various things. They're used also for outside employment when they work for PSE&G, and the residents should know that PSE&G pays for the use of that vehicle, and they also pay a surcharge on that for us to maintain those vehicles and so on. So as the vehicles go through patrol, which is where it's most heavily used, they're used during the regular shifts of the police department. You can't run a car 24 hours straight. So we assign them in different divisions. I allow the chief of police, well, by law, the chief of police has the right to deploy his fleet, and that's how we keep the fleet healthy. There is at times where we have a vehicle that's involved in a major motor vehicle accident, where somebody hits the vehicle or on a deployment to a location, they hit something and the car is then put out of commission for a time period. So we need to have enough vehicles in the fleet, so just in case that happens. There's been towns, as you know, in other towns where 2 police cars hit each other and put those vehicles out. So you gotta have a strong enough fleet to keep a backup for that. And that's what the mayor, myself, and the chief of police have been working so diligently towards. So rest assured that when it's outside employment, they pay for the vehicle, we make some money on that, and then we reinvest it into the program. So 6 is a really good number. Everybody, it seems to be working, and we'd like for you to approve it at this level so we can continue the integrity of our fleet and the safety of our police officers.
And safety and all of that, and support of our police department is the number one priority.
Absolutely.
Anyone have any questions for our administrator?
Do we make enough money to at least buy 1 or 2 cars, would you say, out of the money we make from PSG&G?
Well, it's not only PSE&G, it's anybody that requests outside employment that's a non-governmental agency. I don't like to speculate on that because right now there's a lot of PSE&G work with the gas lines going in. So I would say over the last 2 years, probably yes, but eventually that's going to die out and we'll have to see.
Thank you.
All right, can I get a motion on this resolution?
Motion?
Thank you, Councilwoman Zambicki. Thank you, Councilman Bahal. Any discussion on council, or have we had enough? Seeing none, Ms. Perry, please call the roll.
Councilman Bahal?
Yes.
Councilman McAvoy?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sullivan?
Yes.
Councilwoman Zambicki?
Yes.
Council President Wendell?
Yes. Tonight, we have no public hearings. We're going to move on to new business. We have item A, authorizing Township of East Brunswick Planning Board to undertake a preliminary investigation for redevelopment of certain properties located on Harts Lane, identified more particularly as Block 31, lots 2.07, 2.08, and 3.02, and shown on Schedule A attached here to and made part of hereof. Can I get a motion on this?
So moved.
Thank you, Councilman Bahal. Can I get a second? I'll second it. Any discussion on this? I'd just like to start by saying this is property on Harts Lane that is currently 2 auto salvage yards that have changed their use somewhat, and we are moving to try to place these in an area in need of redevelopment, or at least do the study on that and let the planning board decide whether or not it's proper to have these as an area in need of redevelopment. As stated earlier tonight, these were studied, I think, back in 2015. And I think as the use changes here, it could be a good time to look at having these as an area in need of redevelopment. My concern is that somebody buys one property and leaves the other one vacant, and now you have a nice property here and a nice property over here, and you have something in the center that doesn't resemble or doesn't represent those properties that we have developers investing in. And if we can get them, these last two properties in an area in need of redevelopment, I think at least particularly we can move forward with the people understanding that you know, if you're going to clean up your properties or change the use, we need to potentially clean it up together. So the sum is bigger than, you know.
So you're saying, and I just want to make sure I understand, so these people will still have the property, we just want them to keep it in a manner that
Currently, we're referring this to the planning board. The planning board will then authorize a planner to do a study. The planner will do the study and let the planning board know that it fits the criteria. If it then fits the criteria, planning board votes on it, comes back to us to approve or disapprove, and then it goes to the redevelopment agency to prepare a redevelopment plan for this, something that, you know, an idea of what can and cannot be built there.
Which then goes back to the planning board for review, and then back to the council.
So it can change completely.
Yeah, planning board gets 2 bites at it, and the council actually gets 3, because the redevelopment plan's an ordinance, and you get 2 hearings on that. So this is the first step.
Yeah, first step in a long line. You know, and it could come back that, no, it doesn't meet the criteria, or something else like that, so.
You're just asking us to let it go to the planning board.
Correct. That's all this is tonight, is asking to refer it to the planning board so they can study the property and understand if it meets the criteria.
Council President?
Yes, go ahead.
Is condemnation and eminent domain, is the language still there?
In this one, yes.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Ms. Perry, would you please call the roll?
Councilman Bahal?
Yes.
Councilman McAvoy?
No.
Councilwoman Sullivan?
Yes.
Councilwoman Zimbicki?
Yes.
Council President Wendell?
Yes. Item B, authorizing the Township of East Brunswick Planning Board to undertake a preliminary investigation for redevelopment of that certain properties located on 6th Street, identified more particularly as Block 32 and lots 7.01 and 7.02, Block 66, lots 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.01, 11.01, 12.01, and 13.01, and Block 73, Lot 1.01, and shown on Schedule A, attached hereto and made part hereof. Now, after speaking to our attorney today, every one of these properties is a township-owned property.
Correct.
And so it shouldn't be an area in need of redevelopment with condemnation. We can vote to change that.
Yeah, you can...
We vote on the ordinance, first
You amend it first.
We amend it first, or do we
It's not even, it's not even been introduced, so I think you can do it simpler by just saying, Mike and Nanette write "non" in front of condemnation, and then you're voting on it with the "non" in front of it.
Do we have to vote on the non? Or do we
No.
just?
Because he said it hasn't been.
Okay.
You do have that in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whereas it says non-condemnation redevelopment area.
Yeah, that's as a...
That was okay.
That was as a consideration. It's the 3 places where it says condemnation area.
Okay, so put non in front of it?
Yeah.
Since these are all township-owned properties, we
Right.
can't condemn our own property.
And that's in a residential area, right, pretty much?
It's
adjacent,
Yeah.
residential, and also adjacent to warehouses.
warehouses, so it's an in-between area.
This is a property that the town got, and maybe, Mike, you were probably our township attorney at the time.
I might have been a councilman at the time.
okay.
It was a former bus depot. It's known as the 6th Street property. It's got some contamination on it from the former bus depot, and it's sort of been sitting there and languishing for years with nothing to do. It's not paying taxes, it's town-owned, and the thinking from the agency is if we can move it into a redevelopment area, help entice a developer to come, clean it up and do something with it, that goes back on the tax rolls, cleans up the property, and helps the taxpayers.
Yes. So, can I get
I just have one question, Mike, on that one, whereas it says including the power of eminent domain. Should that be taken out?
No, because that's just a description of the statute.
Okay. But then I put non-condemnation. Okay, and we're good.
I'll stay after and do it.
Okay.
Oh, you're going to stay after class?
Yeah.
If I may, Council President?
Yes.
So, this is our property. And now, we are defining that it is not condemnable. This body is saying that we are not condemning something that's ours.
Right, that's why we're changing the language.
And furthermore, we're still going to keep eminent domain in the language?
No, the eminent domain language that is there is just a description of what the statute says. It says you're allowed to do non-condemnation and you're allowed to do condemnation, and then the next paragraph say, we're doing non-condemnation. So it's just a recitation of what the statute allows, but not what you've decided on.
And you're still going to leave that language in the resolution?
Yeah. It's just a description of the statute. It's not an action by the council.
You see,
I know where you're going, Council.
Council President,
you know what?
May I share a conversation that we had? Or is that?
No, go right ahead.
You know, the one thing I see out of this property that's ours is not traditional redevelopment. I can possibly see in this location, looking at the map, housing?
Yeah.
Low-income housing for veterans. I could see maybe even some type of maybe mixed use, but housing for affordable?
Affordable veterans housing.
Affordable veterans housing?
Housing, also...
And this is my thinking, just Kevin McAvoy solo, even though I shared some ideas with Council President. Just want to make sure that this eminent domain, because I think you know where I stand on eminent domain, is not going to interfere with the possibility of moving forward with this property that we own. And we really don't have to, we won't have to go get a developer to develop this, per se. I mean, maybe a developer could do a better job than what I think the plan should be.
And what we spoke about was, earlier today, I mean, ideas that I've had for this, and again, this is early on conversations that probably don't even mean anything right now, because it's got to go to the planning board, and then it's got to get a planner to review it, but I would like to see this either for veterans housing with maybe some other housing attached, so that it makes it enticing to a developer, or, as we spoke about, housing for some developmentally disabled adults.
Yes.
In this town, which we lack the need for.
For sure.
So we've taken condemnation out, the language.
Right.
Eminent domain will stay there because?
It's only there because it's a cut and paste of what the statute says. The statute says you can do A or B, and we're choosing B. So we're leaving in the A or B part, but you're choosing B, which is non-condemnation.
Thank you. Thank you, Council President.
Go ahead.
I just have how long does something like this take to go to the planning board and
it's a
come
process.
back?
It's
how long?
a good, if you're lucky, it's 60 days. It's more likely 90 to 120.
Yeah.
And that's just to come to see if it goes back to, it comes back to us, and let's say...
Yeah, they have 45 days to make a decision. It comes back to the council. The council can act on it right away, can talk about it further. The council then acts and says, yes, it's area in need of redevelopment, or no. If you say yes, you then send it back to the planning board again. They have another 45 days to develop a plan, then they send the plan back to you, and then you have about a month or more.
The agency develops the plan in this case?
That's optional.
Okay.
That's optional.
For like the environmental part of it all, when does that come in to see environmentally how? I mean, if you're going to put special needs or veterans there, you want to have the best property possible.
It could not be developed unless it was remediated and cleaned up to residential standards, which the DEP sets. The town has spent probably 10 years cleaning up in the 90s and 2000s, and then the funding from the state ran out. By putting it in a redevelopment area, you can have incentives and encourage a developer to come in and clean it up further, to get it to residential standards, and also an incentive to be able to afford to do something like affordable veterans housing, because that's very expensive and often requires a subsidy from a town. So if you have a developer doing it and it's in a redevelopment zone, there are things you can do to provide incentives so that the town has to spend less to get the affordable veterans housing or whatever else you're doing. In Sayreville, the redevelopment agency owned a piece of property, gave it to the developer. They're building 85 affordable units with a veterans preference, but the town still had to kick in $2 million. So you want to be as creative as you can in your redevelopment plan and in the process to make it practical for someone to do that.
And the reason that the redevelopment agency took this up is some of the staff of the agency and our economic development officer drove around town and looked at what they thought to be underperforming properties, and this was one of them that they came to us about and said, you know, and then when we started to pull out the environmental plan and start realizing that we have spent money on this over the years, you know, we need to take this burden off of our shoulders of the rest of the cleanup on this property, in my mind. And the only way to do that is to potentially see if it meets this criteria and can be developed into something that is a performing asset and, you know.
Pays taxes and provides a service.
Yeah. So with that said, any other questions?
But I promise it's not condemnation.
I just want to make one more comment. It's another example of, and Councilman Spadafino has left the floor, but East Brunswick moving forward, period. You know, because I'm not redevelopment is not a blank check for everything that this council stands for.
Right.
And we examine things, we look at things, we question things, we discuss things. And if this is the direction that this particular parcel of land is going, it's a good sign. Thank you.
Remember, and you know, while we all love vacant land and open public land, this is a piece of property that is contaminated, and we can't build a park, we can't do anything unless we had cleaned it up, and I don't think there's an appetite for the funds to clean up this property right now. So that's where, you know, we have to look at this globally. Mr. Mayor.
I just wanted to remind everybody that we have courts that have demanded affordable housing obligations on every town in the state of New Jersey, every town. That was done most recently in the third round, which was 2015, and we're dealing with that still to this day as we proceed with some developments in town that were part of that settlement. We are obligated to build them. And since the township we are not developers, we have to bring people in to do that. All of them want to set aside a portion of whatever they build for the affordable obligation that the town is required by the courts to build. If we challenge that, guess what? We go back to the same courts that gave us that number, so the likelihood of winning that challenge is extraordinarily low. And that is a 10-year obligation that ends in 2025. So guess what happens in 2025? The courts will have round 4 of the affordable housing obligations. And so the township is doing what is responsible, which is to try to figure out a way now to do something with property that we have to make this stay ahead of the curve so that when the courts do that 4th round, we get credits for as many things as we can so that we don't hear a constant whine of complaints about new housing developments that are being forced upon us because we've done our homework ahead of time. And we've done that last time. Our 315 affordable housing obligation that was given to us in 2015 was significantly lower than many towns around us because we did that then. So this is a continuation of what we've been doing. South Brunswick, I remind everyone, 750. And they challenged it to the courts that gave them the 750 number. And guess what the court decided? They're right. Now they have to build 1,500. So the odds of winning those lawsuits when these are court-remanded, court-required, we just do what we can to provide as many of these opportunities for people, give ourselves the credits that we need, which is the whole point of trying to look at the 6th Street property at this point now, because 2025 is not that far away, and try to bank as many of these credits as we can so that we are in a good position when we need to sit down and start negotiating. And I think that's just being prudent and responsible and thinking ahead, and I congratulate you and the redevelopment agency and this township council for thinking that far ahead.
Council President? Yeah. I just wanted to make sure that council knows that we have an affordable housing trust account that developers, when they build things, pay into. So I think our esteemed attorney here recognized what goes on in Sayreville, and I was familiar with that case where they are building a lot of affordable units, preferably for veterans, but they had a sizable amount of money, or almost all of that money, in their affordable housing trust account that paid towards that. Similarly, every time somebody comes in and builds a house or a place of business goes out, a portion of their fees is going to the Affordable Housing Trust. So it just doesn't come out of your taxes. There's a trust account that's been in existence that most of the time we will use. If you recall, I believe it was last year, we bought a place down in the historic district, and we put 3 units there, and that came solely from the Affordable Housing Trust account. So we got 3 additional credits in our account. So I don't mean to interrupt, but I just want to make sure you understand about this trust account that's very important in providing affordable housing for those that are in need.
Thank you. And if I remember correctly, when we were doing our settlement with the Affordable Housing Trust, or with the affordable housing groups, and this is why these types of uses, like the affordable veterans or the young adults with developmental disabilities, why it first of all appeals to me, because we have the need in town, but we also get double credits for those units, from what I remember.
But you max out. You can't build just that.
Right.
Council President, you do even better if you build an affordable, 100% affordable project. For every affordable unit you build, there's 4 market units that somebody else doesn't have to build. Right. So that Sayreville building the 85 units saved them from 350 additional market units.
Fantastic.
So if we did it over on 6th Avenue, we put all like different type of affordable housing, that would count towards our next round.
Yeah. All right. Can I get a motion on this?
Motion.
All right.
Second.
Motion by Councilwoman Sullivan, second by Councilman Bahal. And can Ms. Perry please call the roll?
Councilman Bahal?
Yes.
Councilman McAvoy?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sullivan?
Yes.
Councilwoman Zimbicki?
Yes.
Councilman Wendell?
Yes.
President Wendell?
And item C, added to our agenda of new business tonight is approval of an additional bill list in the amount of $4,669,611.56. You want to speak on that?
Sure.
Mr. Sculo?
As the council recalls, over the last couple of years, we've had discussions about the new water line that will go into place in Route 18, down the whole corridor. So we've already discussed this project. We've bonded for the project. It is now the request from the New Jersey Department of Transportation to make our first installment payment on that. And if you recall, we're only paying for half of this. So when you get an opportunity to get a brand-new water line down a highway that's being reconstructed, and you can only have to pay for half of it, it's a good deal. It's good government. It will provide us with water service along that highway for a long, long time. That line that's existing there ranges anywhere from 50 to 70 years old. And
Water
so
main breaks on that line cost
a lot of money.
A lot
If you
more
recall, 2 weeks ago, we had a water main break on Bruce Lane, and just to repave that, if you remember, was somewhere in the neighborhood of $14,000, because you got to build it to DOT spec. So this is our first installment payment for the water line that will run on Route 18, which will bring us a brand-new line throughout the whole Route 18 corridor.
And if I remember correctly, that line now is being moved out of the highway, primarily.
Primarily, yes.
You know.
There's some spots where it can't be.
Right.
Right.
But it'll be moved out of the highway within the right-of-way, so any future water main breaks there will be much cheaper to repair it.
Correct.
Yeah. So, all right, can I get a motion on this bill list? Motion? Motion by Councilman Zibicki, second by Councilwoman Sullivan. Any discussion from council on this? Seeing none, Ms. Perry, please call the roll.
Councilman Hall?
Yes.
Councilman McAvoy?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sullivan?
Yes.
Councilwoman Zibicki?
Yes.
Council President Wendell?
Yes. Anybody have anything for the good of the cause tonight?
While we're talking about 6th Avenue, I'd like to thank Joe Piscola for 6th and 5th Avenue and Ferris Road. Some residents happened to call me and tell me the last snowstorm, the plowers couldn't plow their streets because trucks were left there. And thanks to Joe knowing Mr. Piscola, for knowing who the right people to call, it's pretty much.
Yeah, we're working on cleaning it up. I have to really extend a thank you to Lieutenant Wade Gordon. He's been actively working with me on that project, and also the night patrolmen that are on the night shift that have been going over there almost every night and double checking and knocking on doors to ensure that, you know, if we do get a snowstorm, we want to be able to plow so our residents can get out. So everything pretty much we do here is team effort with the township. So thank you very much, Councilwoman.
You're welcome.
All right, anyone else for the good of the cause?
I do, Council President.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank
So
you,
I had
Councilwoman.
the opportunity this weekend on Saturday to attend a budgeting workshop from the New Jersey State League of Municipalities. I have to say it was very enlightening. It was focusing on being a responsible custodian of our township. It was wonderful because we got to interact with council people from all over the state of New Jersey and hearing different issues and different solutions. We talked about bond ratings, which I know Mayor Cohen expressed in his state of the township. Our bond rating is very high. We are definitely one of the better townships in the state of New Jersey. We talked about cap laws. We talked about fund balancing and cycling out payments, just like we did tonight for purchasing the police vehicles, making sure you're on a schedule to do that. We focused on state aid and the historic drop in state aid starting in 2010, and then it remained flat. But yet, East Brunswick was very resilient with that due to a lot of the foresight. We talked about our long-term debt plan, and affordable housing was another big topic that came out. So it was enlightening for me as a layman, right, and not knowing a lot of this. It gave me a whole new perspective that a lot of people in the general public do not know. It's very, there's a lot of complexities in the laws and many limitations to what we can do, but it was something that I very much enjoyed, and there was a lot to gain through it. And I came away with one thing, several things, but one thing is in comparing us to other townships in New Jersey, we are really quite a strong township. So that was one of the takeaways.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
Always slowly.
Anyone else for the good of the cause? Seeing none, can I get a motion to adjourn? So moved. Thank you, Councilman McAvoy, second by Councilman Bahal. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, we're out. Take care.